The next drum groove that we're going to learn starts to have multiple bass drums. So instead of you just hitting that foot once, you're going to have to hit it twice, 3 times or more. So now is the perfect time for us to talk a little bit more about actual bass drum technique and a little bit about your bass drum pedal here. On bass drum, there are sort of, if we're talking umbrella terms here, there are 2 techniques that we're going to hear people talking about. You're going to talk about heel up and heel down. So there's also a third technique, right? But if we start with those 2, right? If I take a shoe here, we can demonstrate this quite easy, right? On a pedal, we've got what's called the heel plate and we've got the foot plate. Beta and all this mechanism here does various different things, right? The basics are this, right? You put your heel on the heel plate, you put your toes up here, and you literally just press your toes down, and that's going to move the beta to hit the bass drum, right? That's the easiest technique to learn, heel down, because our body does that naturally. However, there's another technique which some people find better, some people find worse, which is where we play heel up. And all you do then is you go up, bring your heel up off the pedal, you're going to move down that way, down the pedal a little bit. Now on this particular pedal, it says iron cobra, so I've got some references to think about. So I'm normally telling people aim down here where about the line is between the eye and the cobra, right? But with the basics, you can see from that angle there that it's not right at the top of the pedal. So we're coming down a little bit. Now what I'm getting people to do then is they're taking their whole leg, the whole weight of their knee, and just bang, just dropping their whole leg. So then their foot's actually going to do this. Now you can see even just with the shoe how much more that bass drum beat is moving. However, right, there's a downside to this. When we press down on the pedal like this, when we lift up, anything that we do where we leave the pedal means this guy up here is just going to wobble around like this. So we actually don't really want to leave the pedal. It's just that we're having our foot in either this position, so it's going up and down like that, or we're in this position, so it's going up and down like that. If you're leaving the pedal, this stuff's going to start happening. You're going to start whacking your own toes with this beta. Now, a little bit of terminology that we need to know here. So you're going to hear me sometimes talking about burying the beta. Well, burying the beta means this guy here gets buried into the head. So as we press it, if it stays on there, that's burying the beta. Now, rebounding the beta, well, that's bouncing off like that. Both are legitimate, a bit like we've got German and French. All these techniques can be used. I've learned over my years of learning drums that by practicing all of them, the one that I actually go to gets a little bit better. So the muscles that you develop using heel down, for instance, help you when you're doing heel up. Now I mentioned at the start of this that there's a third technique. Now the third technique is, for some drum instructors, the one they would go to straight away, but it's a little bit more difficult to teach. The third technique is what we're doing is we're hitting our whole foot down, but the angle of the shoe really is really important. If I go at this angle here, then I'm going to hit the top first, so the beat is going to play. That's heel down. If I go at this angle, there's no beta. If I get the angle just right and my whole foot comes down together, then what happens is I get to press the beta, but also I get the heel just slightly touching here, which just lets your leg relax just a little bit as you hit it. So we start to get this kind of motion going on. Now again, we don't really want to leave the pedal, so it's more like the whole leg is just pressing like this. And that little bit of respite you get on the heel will really help you. Now this is easier for me to demonstrate when I'm on the drum kit and you can see my feet. So I'll demonstrate all of those techniques for you there. When you're on YouTube, for instance, you're going to start to hear about a whole bunch of other techniques. So you're going to hear about the slide technique, you're going to hear about like heel toe technique, you're going to hear about like techniques where you do this with your heel and dancing techniques. And all these techniques are, think of those as add-ons, right? You've got a basic technique which takes you from very slow to reasonably quick. If we want to get super fast, then what we've got at the top of here is we've got additional things added on, like the heel toe, like the toe heel, like the slide technique. Now they are worth you learning, right? But they're not particularly worth you learning right now if you're just quite new to drums. You want to get these down first, and then in 6 weeks, 6 months, or 6 years, you learn the others. Let's get on the drums. So here are our 3 options for basic bass drum technique. I've stuck on some white shoes, we've got a camera from the side. I'm pretty sure that you'll be able to follow this through. We've got our first one. Remember, we got a heel plate and we got a foot plate. So I put my heel down and I'm just literally pressing my toes onto that bass drum. Now, I spoke about how we can sometimes bury the beta or rebound the beta. So now I'm going to do, say, 4 where I bury the beta in like this, all the way in, and 4 where I rebound the beta like this. Here we go. Now there are subtle changes to the actual instrument, the bass drum noise changes slightly, whether we bury it or we rebound, right? But the bass sole. So now if I change to the heel up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my foot in the same position. I'm going to roll back about 2 inches. I'm going to go up onto my toes, and I'm going to let my whole leg push up and down like this. Same but with the rebound. So I found when I first started drums that the heel up was much better, but I buried the beater for quite a while. And after doing that for a little while, I then started to learn to actually rebound that. Well, why can't you bury it all the time? Well, basically you create a lot of tension in this muscle up here when you're to hold your leg up in the air like this. And so by being able to hit the drum and rebound it and then relax, we get a little bit of respite here. So that's something for you to think about with the heel up technique. You've got to have a point at which you put your heel down. So something that's good for you to practice is this here. Or if you're burying it, now when you're mid groove, that is far, far too much information to be thinking about when you're doing all the other stuff as well. So this is going to be something you do hundreds and hundreds of times. Just sit, stick something on TV, stick your phone in front of you, watch YouTube, whatever you like doing to pass the time, sit and do that and do hundreds of hits with your bass drum. So the third one then, which was a little bit more complicated, is the one where, if you remember, my foot's got to go down just the right angle so that I don't just hit the heel plate, but I actually start to change the angle enough that the bass drum beat eventually starts to hit the drum. So one of the ways I teach this is exactly that. I'm going to hit the heel plate, and I'm going to slowly change the angle of my foot down until I start to make some noise, like this. Now the upside of this one is that I don't then have to relax my leg because of that heel plate. That contact with that heel plate just takes enough of the strain that my leg doesn't hurt up here anymore. Okay, again, another thing for you to think about then. So every time we leave the pedal, we're being inefficient, right? We don't want to lift up like this. So when I'm doing that pedal, I've got to learn to lift my leg just the right amount. And it's quite a small amount. We're not lifting a long way here. So let's do that same one. I'll do 4 where I bury the beater and 4 where I rebound it. Now just a little extra tip for you here. What I've found is that if I imagine that I'm pressing my foot downwards, straight down, vertically down like this, it's something about the feel of it is slightly less, there's less volume, less velocity compared to when I pretend that I'm pushing my foot forward a little bit. So if you were trying to push yourself off the back of a drum kit like that, that seems to make the beater hit a little bit more efficiently and get a little bit more power. And so the only way you're going to know which one is for you, again, I'd like to think that maybe you'll learn all 3 over the long term, but which one's for you right now, is to sit and practice doing lots and lots of blocks like this, then change to this one, and then the one where your heel touches.